Friends, welcome to my YouTube channel. Danesh here. In the last video, we were discussing about Java variables. In this video, we are going to discuss about different Java data types. Let's start. See, as discussed, Java data type means a variable in Java must be a specified data type. This data type can be byte, int, short, long. We discussed even in the last video. So these data types can be classified into two. One is the primitive data type and another one is the non-primitive data type. So data types are divided into two groups. One is primitive and another one is non-primitive. Primitive data types means it includes byte, short, int, long, float, double, boolean and character. Non-primitive data types, it contains string, arrays and classes. Some more clarity we can get it on primitive data type. A primitive data type specifies the size and type of variable values. And one important point you need to remember is it has no additional methods. There are 8 primitive data types in Java. It's shown here. Byte, short, int, long, float, double, boolean and character. Byte is of 1 byte size. Stores whole numbers from -128 to 127. Related to all data types, the complete description is given here. Float means it stores decimal numbers. Double also it stores decimal numbers, but float is of 4 bytes and double is of 8 bytes. When you see long, it's also 8 bytes. Int is also 4 bytes. But both int and long are whole numbers used to store whole numbers. See, its variation is given from minus to plus, how it varies. It's given here. Long is, of 8 bytes. So this table is very important. Now you need to understand non-primitive data type means non-primitive data types are called reference types because they refer to objects. Non-primitive data types, we have examples like string. String is a non-primitive data type. It's a class, arrays and classes. So all these things you may be familiar. So in Eclipse, I can show you how you can, even in the last videos we discussed in detail, this is the way you can declare, an integer in x is equal to 5. If you want to declare a string, you can write it as a string. Yes, you can, sorry, the caps lock is on, 1 second. String s is equal to, you can write it as some value you can give. I love Java. Then you need to end with a semicolon. So this is the way you define a string. When you define a float, you need to understand float is equal to, float f is equal to 10.78 or 10.8. It ends with a small f. That's really important. If there is no small f, it will give you an error. You can see it in the ID, the left side, red color is there. In the same way, when you see double also you will define like this. Double D is equal to 10.7. It ends with a D. That's the way you can differentiate these two. But even double, I believe, without D also it won't give any error, I believe. But for float, f is mandatory. You are getting my point? See, if you run this double without D, it's not showing any error. But with D, it won't show any error. It's not showing. But if I am, removing the F from here, you can see here it will, it's showing an error. So you need to, denote like, F is mandatory there. Now if you run it, the error is gone. So this is the way you can, after that you can use the system.out.println to print the different types of variables. This is another important thing. Now some more points I can tell you. It's what is the exact difference between primitive and non-primitive data types? We can compare these two data types. Let me see how we can compare these two. This is here I have given some important points. You can keep it in mind. Primitive means a primitive type has always a value. Primitive types, data types we already discussed, while non-primitive types can be none. First point, very important. A primitive type starts with a lowercase letter, while non-primitive types starts with an uppercase letter. For example, here in the program, if you see string is a non-primitive type. It started with an uppercase letter. But all other primitive data types like int, float, double, it starts with a lowercase letter. That is another difference. Then the size of primitive data type depends on the data type, while non-primitive types have all the same size. Non-primitive type have all the same size, but primitive type depends on the data, the size. Even I have shown here in the table. You can, one second, you can see it here in the table. From this table also it's clear related to the primitive data type size. It varies. Some are 4 bytes, 1 byte, 8 bytes, like that. It varies. Now when you come to the next difference, one second, next is the next difference, it is primitive types are predefined in Java. It's already defined in Java. But non-primitive types are created by the programmer and is not defined by Java, except for string. Very important. Primitive types are predefined in Java. Non-primitive types are created by the programmer and is not defined by Java, but there is an exception for string. Now, non-primitive types can be used to call methods to perform certain operations, while primitive types cannot. The last difference. That's also very important. Non-primitive types can be used to call methods. So that's all for this video. We covered the difference between primitive and non-primitive data types, and also we have written code how you can write primitive and non-primitive data types as well. That's all. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. Thanks a lot.